November 2000. You are a school teacher in Buenos Aires named Maria. You earn 800 pesos a month. That is $800. The government pegged the peso to the dollar at 1219 years ago. It has not moved since. Your husband Diego works at a small metalworking shop in Avellaneda. He brings home 600. Between you, $1,400 a month. You have 2 children. You have a savings account at Banco Galicia with $22,000. Every peso you did not spend in 12 years of marriage. Diego's mother calls it your colchon, your mattress. Not because it is under the mattress, because it is your cushion against whatever life throws at you. You rent your apartment for 1,100 pesos a month. Your children attend a public school. You buy groceries at the Cato supermarket on Avenida or Rivadavia. You take the colectivo to work. Life is tight but stable. The number in the savings account grows a little each month. Now watch what happens. 13 months later. You cannot withdraw your own money. The government has locked it behind a steel door called the Corralito. And the key belongs to a man named Domingo Cavallo. Your $22,000 will, in the end, be converted against your will into pesos worth approximately $7,500 at the new exchange rate. You will lose 65% of everything you saved. Not because you gambled. Not because you speculated. Because you trusted a bank. This is the story of Maria and Diego. And it is the story of what happens when a government that promised your savings were safe in dollars decides overnight that they are not. Because every economic collapse in Fiscal Historian's record begins the same way, with someone like Maria, with someone like Diego, with a bank account that held what it said it held, until the morning it did and single quotes t. By the end of this video, you will understand what Maria and Diego went through, month by month, from the day the crisis began to the day they realized no one was coming to help. And you will see the same pattern forming right now in countries you can name. A currency peg that held for years. A banking system that seemed safe. A government that made promises it could not keep. Stay with me. Let's start with the timeline. Because the timeline is the story. March 2001. The Argentine economy is already in its 3rd year of recession. President Fernando de la Rúa has gone through 2 economy ministers in 3 months. The 3rd man he appoints is the one who built the system in the first place, Domingo Cavallo, the architect of the convertibility law that pegged the peso to the dollar back in 1991. Diego sees it on the evening news. Maria asks if it means anything. Diego says no. Cavallo is the reason 1 peso equals $1. If anyone can fix this, he can. By July, Cavallo announces a 13% cut to all civil servant salaries and pensions. Maria's paycheck drops from 800 to 696 pesos overnight. The union calls a strike. She goes to work anyway. She cannot afford not to. By October, unemployment has hit 20%. Diego's boss at the metalworking shop stops paying in full. He receives half his salary in cash and the rest in IOUs leckups. They are called. They are supposed to clear at the end of the month. They never do. The October elections deliver a verdict. Over 20% of voters submit deliberately blank or defaced ballots, the voto branca, the angry vote. Nobody trusts anyone anymore. But the peso is still 1-to-1. The savings account still says $22,000. Maria checks the balance at the ATM. 22,147 pesos. She thinks, at least the money is safe. November 29th. A bank run accelerates. $15 billion have already fled the country since July. Wealthy Argentines with international accounts have moved their money to Miami and Montevideo. Maria and Diego have no international accounts. They have Banco Galicia on Calle, Florida. December 1st, a Saturday morning. Maria turns on the television and sees Economy Minister Cavallo announcing Decree 1570, effective immediately. No Argentine citizen may withdraw more than 250 pesos per week from any bank account. Dollar-denominated accounts cannot be withdrawn unless the holder agrees to convert to pesos first. A journalist named Antonio Lige coins the word that will define the next year. Corralito, the little corral. The playpen. Maria calls Diego. Diego says it is temporary. He says Cavallo is managing the situation. He says the money is still there. They just cannot take it out right now. $70 to $85 billion in deposits now sit locked behind a rule Cavallo announced on television on a Saturday morning. No debate, no vote, no warning. December 5th, the International Monetary Fund refuses to release a $1.26 billion loan installment. The IMF says Argentina has not met its budget targets. Without the money, the government cannot pay its debts. Sales in shops collapse 50 to 70% overnight. People are not buying because they cannot access their cash. Maria walks past her neighborhood supermarket and sees the shelves are full. It is not a supply problem. It is a money problem. The food is there, the money is not. December 13th. Official unemployment hits 18%. Diego has not been paid in 3 weeks. December 19th. The looting begins. It starts in the impoverished suburbs, La Matanza, Quilmes, Merino. Families break into supermarkets. Not gangs. Families. Mothers with children. They take flour, rice, cooking oil. By evening it has spread nationwide. Rosario, Cordoba, Mendoza. That night, De la Ria declares a state of siege. And Buenos Aires erupts. Hundreds of thousands pour into the streets, banging pots and pans. The cacerolazos. The sound is deafening. It echoes off the buildings of the microcentro. The chant that will define this moment rises from the crowd. QSE Vian to-dos. All of them must go. Police charge on horseback against the Madres de Plaza de Mayo, the mothers who have been marching for their disappeared children since the dictatorship. Tear gas fills the plaza. December 20th. Police kill 5 people in central Buenos Aires alone. 39 will die in total over these days. 9 of them are minors. De la Ria's entire cabinet resigns. He offers the Peronists a power-sharing deal. They refuse. At 7 in the evening, Fernando de la Ria boards a helicopter on the roof of the Casa Rosada and flies away. The president of Argentina escapes his own capital by air. What follows is chaos. 5 presidents in 12 days. The third of them, Adolfo Rodriguez Sá, stands before Congress on December 23rd and declares default on $81.3 billion of sovereign debt, the largest sovereign default in world history to that point. The room applauds. January 2nd, 2002. Eduardo Duhalde takes office and does the thing Maria has feared since. December 1st, he abandons the peg. He announces the pezification as a metric of the asymmetric conversion. Dollar deposits in banks are converted to pesos at 1.4 pesos per dollar, by force, not by choice. Dollar debts owed by corporations and the wealthy are converted at 1-to-1, handing them a windfall while robbing savers. Meanwhile, the peso on the open market is already trading at 2-to-1. By mid-2002, it will reach 4-to-1. Maria single quotes, as $22,000 becomes 30,800 pesos at the Corralito exchange rate. But at the market exchange rate, those 30,800 pesos are worth approximately $7,700. She has lost 65% of everything she saved. Not in a market crash. Not in a bad investment. Through a government decree issued on a Saturday morning. Ricardo Yados, 71, a computer scientist, later told reporters that of the $77,000 he had in the bank, he lost $40,000 in the Corralito. That December, he said, was terrible. Actor Ricardo Darin recalled that his mother, until her dying days, asked him if there was any chance of recovering her bank savings. He lied to comfort her. He told her it was in the hands of lawyers and they thought recovery was possible. He said you should have seen the way her eyes lit up. Luis Gonzalez, a produce manager who had deposited $20,000 of severance pay, said it plainly. I thought it would be safer to put my money in the bank. Now I know I should have put it under the mattress instead. Or bought gold coins. By October 2002, unemployment reaches 23.6%. 57% of the population is in poverty. 7 out of 10 Argentine children are below the poverty line. 40,000 companies have closed. In Tucumán province, 18 children die of malnutrition. And this is where the story turns. Because María and Diego did not sit and wait for the system to save them. Nobody did. The system had just confiscated their savings. What came next was built from below. Here is what saved them. First, the truc. Barter clubs had existed in Argentina since 1995, when 3 neighbors Horacio Covas, Carlos Donso, and Ruben Rivera opened the first one in a garage in Bernal, south of Buenos Aires. They called it the Red Global del Truc. By the time the crisis hit, the network was ready. In May of 2002, at its peak, roughly 5,000 barter nodes operated across the country with 2.5 million regular participants. Maria went to the La Matanza Truc Club every week. She brought homemade empanadas and embroidered napkins. She left with flour, eggs, and children's shoes. They used a currency called creditos, printed paper notes issued by each node. Nelly Vesquez, 29, who had lost her job at a clothing factory, came every week to trade wool for food. Diolindo Faria, 66, brought bananas and mandarins. "What we do here is fair and honest trading," he told a reporter. "I look at this like a job." Marcella told the BBC, "You would offer whatever you had. You might repair a washing machine and get 6 eggs for it. Or do someone's accounts and they would fix your car." It was not elegant. It was not efficient. But for 2.5 million people, it was the difference between eating and not eating. Second, the neighborhood assemblies. Within weeks of the December cacerolazos, over 270 assemblies formed across Buenos Aires alone. They organized in parks, on street corners, in abandoned lots. They ran soup kitchens, artisan fairs, community gardens, and school tutoring. The largest, the Interbarrial del Parque Centenario, drew 3,000 people to its weekly meetings. Members voted on every decision. Coordinators rotated. There were no leaders. There was no hierarchy. Maria went to her neighborhood assembly every Thursday for 6 months. It was where she learned which shops would accept barter, which neighbors needed help, and where food distribution was happening. Third, the occupied factories. When the Zanon ceramics factory in Neuquén faced closure, the workers did not go home. On October 1, 2001, they occupied it. Their leader was Raul Godoy, a ceramics worker since 1993. Faced with closure, he later wrote, "Our response was swift. On October 1st, we took a decisive step and occupied the factory. They restarted production on March 2, 2002, with 240 workers. They renamed it Facinpit, Fábrica Sin Patrons, Factory Without Bosses." By 2009, the provincial legislature voted to expropriate the factory and transfer ownership to the workers, the first time this had happened in Argentina. At the Bruckmann textile factory in Buenos Aires, the owners had been paying workers 2 pesos a day, then nothing, then they simply left. Worker Alba described the moment. "We went downstairs to find the big surprise that they had left the place empty. Only empty offices. 50 women, mostly seamstresses, occupied the factory and began producing suits on their own." Celia Martinez, a 10-year employee, told a crowd, "They're afraid of us because we demonstrated that if we can run the factory, we can run the country." Workers occupied approximately 200 factories between 2001 and 2003, giving jobs to around 15,000 people. Fourth, the Colchon money. The Argentines who survived with their savings intact were those who had never trusted the banks in the first place. They kept dollars in cash under the mattress, in a safe, at a relative's house. After the pacification, when bank deposits lost 65% of their value, cash dollars were worth 100 cents on the dollar. The lesson was brutal and specific. The mattress was not a joke. It was a strategy. Those who trusted the institution lost 2/3. Those who trusted the mattress lost nothing. Fifth, immigration. An estimated 300,000 Argentines left the country in the 5 years following the crisis. Spain was the primary destination, 157,000 by 2004. Many leveraged Italian or Spanish ancestry for dual citizenship. The Italian embassy in Buenos Aires issued over 12,000 passports in the year 2000 alone. Diego's cousin left for Barcelona in March 2002. He found work in construction within a month. He sent money back. It arrived in dollars. Notice what did not save them. The banking system, the very institution designed to protect savings, was the mechanism of their destruction. Gold would have helped, but María and Diego did not own gold. They were a school teacher and a metal worker. They trusted pesos because pesos were dollars. Until the morning, they were not. The pattern repeats. Lebanon. 2019, the pound is pegged to the dollar at 1,507.5. Has been for 22 years. A nurse saves $50,000 in a bank account. Then the peg breaks. Capital controls lock her money. The Lebanese call the trapped deposits dollars that exist on paper but cannot leave the bank. 98% loss. The same mechanism, the same outcome, the same ordinary person who trusted the system and lost everything. Weimar, Germany, 1922. A factory worker named Karl brings home 400 marks a week. 12 months later, he brings home 2.2 million marks. His wife Anna runs to the baker the moment he is paid, because the money loses value while she holds it in her hands. Their savings account becomes a joke. The number stays the same. The value vanishes. Russia, 1992. The government liberalizes prices overnight. Sberbank deposits, decades of deferred consumption for every Soviet citizen, lose 99% of their value in a single year. A future president named Vladimir Putin drives a taxi to earn extra income. Same pattern, same mechanism, same outcome. A savings account denominated in a currency that the government has the power to debase, convert, or freeze is not savings. It is a promise. And every crisis in Fiscal Historian's record begins the same way, with the promise being broken. The question this video leaves you with applies in Buenos Aires in 2001, in Beirut in 2019, in Berlin in 1923, and wherever you are sitting right now. If your bank announced tomorrow that you could only withdraw $250 a week, what would you do? Not next month, not after you have had time to prepare. Tomorrow. Maria had empanadas she could trade. Diego had metalworking skills that people needed. They had a neighborhood they belonged to. They had a community that shared information about which shop was open, which factory was hiring, which barter club had flour. What they did not have was their savings, because their savings were inside an institution that decided, on a Saturday morning, that the rules had changed. The Corralito lasted less than a year. The lesson has lasted a generation. Historian Felipe Pigna described it this way: there was a strong sense of orphanhood, a deep distrust of institutions, of the state, and of the banks. 2001 is a ghost that reappears in times of crisis, not in rational terms, in emotional terms. The Argentines who rebuilt did so with what the Corralito could not touch: skills, community, cash held outside the system, and the knowledge purchased at 65 cents on every dollar they had ever saved, that the mattress was right all along.